Hello, everyone. Good to see you. Naomi, you do want to be here because we're going to make it fun. It's not going to be a guilt trip session. It's going to be an honest conversation where we look at actual data and not just how I feel or what I've been told. So, what arguments pop to your head immediately when you think, I need to be on social media? Like, I need to be on social media because why? Okay, Facebook Marketplace. Sure, homeschool groups, book groups, encouragement groups, extended family to see pictures of kids, how my family shares news, connect with people I don't live near anymore, marketplace, sales, keeping up with family. My church communicates that way. See events going on for the kids. I might miss out on important information. And yes, there's the question, like, what actually counts as social media? And Tina's asking that right now. What's included in social media? Lurking on a Twitter account. Let's see, Melissa says, I seriously love to be liked in very unique areas, if I'm honest. Seeing memories pop up. I crave approval from people I respect. I go there for information, an admin of a group. Sure. And there are totally legitimate reasons to be on social media. We aren't like, what I'm going to talk about here are just honestly examining the reasons that we tell ourselves for being on social media, and then honestly assessing the actual time and the actual ways we use social media. This is not going to be a guilt trip, and this is not going to be me trying to convince you to make the same decision I have made at all. But I know that the decision to quit social media is scary and intimidating. And so I wanted to discuss some of the reasons why we might choose to do it, even though it's scary, and examine those assumptions, like it's the only way my family shows photos, or I might miss something. Fear of missing out, right? That's basically how social media became the behemoth that it is, by actually inculcating and promoting that feeling of fear of missing out, so much so that the acronym has become a word, because the apps are actually capitalizing on creating FOMO. Does Pinterest count? Does Convivial Circle, our private chat app, count? Does texting count? A lot of people are here now asking, what are we talking about when we talk about social media? And there are many ways that we could categorize it. So what I'm going to categorize for the sake of this talk as social media is whatever app that gives you a feed where you choose, like, you follow people, you see a feed, you tap responses, and you have the option to publish to who knows who in the world. Text messaging specific people is not social media. That's just the new equivalent of a phone call that I prefer to a phone call, honestly. I think even Marco Polo, if you're using that to keep up with friends, I've played around with that app a little bit, isn't social media in the same way, because in that you are connecting with people who are actually in your contacts. And you're not really like, it doesn't really give you don't scroll in Marco Polo. So you go there for a specific conversation and share specific things with specific people there. So it's a video texting app. It's not the same thing as Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. The other thing that all of these social media apps have in common is there is an algorithm affecting what is seen, and they are making money through advertisements. So the social media app makes money based on how much time you spend on the app. Because the more time you spend there, the more ads. So this is how social media works these days. Instagram's always been social media, but when I got on Instagram, I don't even know how many years ago, before Facebook owned it, there were no ads on Instagram. You just followed the people and you saw their pictures, and you didn't see people that you didn't follow, and there were no ads. So in a lot of ways, it was closer to Marco Polo, although you could publish to the world and you had this feed that you scrolled. I don't know, zoned out in front of is what I did. And so Pinterest, again, Pinterest isn't really social, but it is a place where you follow people. It doesn't really affect what you see very much. The algorithm controls but you have a feed that you scroll and you click or like things. But it's one of those places where we have an overwhelming amount of information tailored, but the app's goal is to keep you on the app as much as possible in order to show you as many ads as possible. And so the algorithm figures out what you want to see and gives you what you want to see, because that will keep you on the app longer. That will make you want to pick up the app. It will just train you to open the app without even thinking. And therefore, they will have more eyeballs on their ads. If you aren't paying for it, you are the product. That's a basic principle that my husband's always pointing out. He's a software developer. If you aren't paying for the product, your eyeballs in that piece of software is the product that they're going for. Yes, Brooke says, I've been off Facebook and Instagram for about 6 months now. It's been the best thing ever. But every now and again, I feel like I might miss something. I have definitely felt that way off and on throughout my 2.5 years of being off Instagram. And one time, maybe there's a way that I could be on it without getting sucked in, because it was really, I had to be honest and recognize how much I was being sucked in to the app. And I had my excuses, I had my reasons, I had legitimate reasons to be on, but those were the excuses. And then what actually happened is I actually ended up wasting time that I should have been doing something else. And it was eating way more time than I realized that it was. So you can even go on, I'm pretty sure on your screen time report, you can even go into whichever social media app you have a tendency to just turn to, whether that's Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, Pinterest, TikTok, whatever the other ones out there, and just get some hard data. Because I know before I got off, I would have told you just from my impression or my intention that I probably spent 3 or 4 hours a week on Instagram, when really it was somewhere between 6 and 10. It was like, it just made it a no-brainer where I knew I had to go cold turkey, because I was not actually deriving enough benefit for putting that much time into it. And I had these other things that I wanted to do. And I always said, I don't have the time to add that on. And it's like, my screen time report basically told that time that you wanted for that other thing, here it is. All you have to do is not open this app and suddenly you have this much more time. Yes, getting off is hard. I get sucked in. Yes, time scrolling. That's what I realized. So here's a funny thing that happened to me after I got off Instagram. And for the first few months, it was cold turkey. I didn't have other apps that I scrolled. And every time I had that itch, it was, oh, I know that's the Instagram itch, and I'm just going to ignore, I'm going to go do something else. But after a few months, I realized that I was still getting that itch to scroll. And what Instagram really was a place for me to escape. I would open it up because of reasons, or because I would even pick up my phone to do something else. And then suddenly I'd be on Instagram because habit took over. And that addictive behavior, which the apps are intentionally creating, took over. And it was the first app. Even when I put the Instagram app icon in a little folder and on the second screen, I was like, I could still get there without thinking about it and suddenly be there, even though I meant to go like this way and that tap. Still, it was. And so a few months after getting off Instagram, I was just scrolling Amazon all the time. And or it might even be headlines. And it's like I never looked at headlines before I got off Instagram. But then suddenly I noticed that when I clicked on my browser on my phone, it fed me headlines. And so even though I opened it to search for something, I would be sucked in and I'd be scrolling. And I scrolled through the headlines a few times recently, just going to see what was there. They're supposed to be news headlines, right? And the first two will be. And then it's actually like news sources. I don't know what kind of sources because I don't click them, but they're telling me what's popular on TikTok. So they're like third-party sources, but the headline that I'm seeing on my browser that's suggested for me are TikTok videos. And I don't watch TikTok videos. I'm like, this is news? This waitress is unhappy because of the way the person did or didn't tip, and so she made a TikTok story. And this is on my browser feed? I need to give the browser better information about me or something. But what I found is that it's really the habit of scrolling that is that escape, the desire to escape, and the rabbit hole that we can just like zone out of real life. And that's the danger point. So it's like social media is the easy target, the easy avenue to scroll. But there are other ways to do it. And the other ways might be the actual problem. And so that's why when I decided to create a challenge for getting off your phone, spending less time on your phone basically, and recognizing parameters that might fit your life better for your phone use, to get some better habits so that we can prevent that habitual addictive behavior around our phone. I called it Stop the Scroll, and not stop social media or not social media detox or anything like that, because really it is the scrolling function that is that draw and that behavior that sucks us in, distracts us from real life, and is addicting because they're mini dopamine hits, curiosity, escapism, these things that draw us away from our active duties that we ought to be paying attention to. And you think, well, I'm just going to check this real quick, right? Check this real quick. And then we're scrolling and I'm getting ideas, or I'm finding what's for dinner tonight, or I need whatever research. I was just going to actually search for something, but now I'm scrolling. Whatever it is, it's the scrolling behavior that impedes our engagement with our real life. And it hinders that engagement with our real life in ways that we will not recognize unless we remove it for a time. So that's what the Stop the Scrolls challenge, which starts on Monday and is totally free, is about. Just stepping away from scrolling, whatever it is that you scroll, and seeing when you want to go to it and seeing how it's affecting you even when you aren't scrolling. Yes, Don says, I stopped Facebook and Instagram because I got tired of the polarizing conversations among people that we knew who were also Christians, and because I have a terrible temptation to compare myself to others. There are all kinds of things that make social media mentally and emotionally unhealthy. Yeah. Yeah. And I am someone who has many online friends. And I've met many wonderful people and started things. I honestly, I wouldn't be here doing workshops if it weren't for the people that I met online. It was Pam Barnhill who said, "You've had writing a book on your list for forever. It's time to do that." And so I did. The people that I have met online have been such an encouragement and blessing and prod for me. They have been a blessing. Almost all of them I met before social media. Very few of them did I actually first meet through social media because I'm older and had been on the internet a long time. So I was on the internet before social media existed, and we had blogs and we left comments and we just did the internet differently. And so that led to a part of my disgust with social media, especially Instagram in 2020, which is when I quit. I was like, I'm done. Because I remember Instagram before ads. And then it's like, all I'm seeing, like every other post is fat ladies in underwear. Like all of a sudden it just like poof. Like, the proportion of ads to real content exploded, and the kind of advertising that was on there changed. And I was like, I'm done. But the quality of interactions on Instagram has been going downhill. And even the kind of connections that happen on Instagram are not the same kind of connections that happened on forums and through blog comments back in the day. And so even though like it is an avenue to find people and to get encouragement that you might not have in your local community, but there are better places actually, even still. And the internet is changing and the landscape is changing, and blog comments are not where it's at anymore. Unfortunately, forums are a thing of the past for the most part. Things like Twitter is basically an outrage machine. You just get little snippets, and with Instagram, it's just photos and basically little snippets because people aren't really reading and people aren't really engaging. They're just reacting. Everyone's reacting. And that's not a great way to get to know anyone. It's like you're not seeing people at their best when they're in the comments section of social media. I think, am I wrong? And then as opposed to then when people post, you're seeing the very best cold little snapshot, which is not the same thing as reading an essay that they wrote, right, on an old school blog. So I was just like, you know what? I'm tired of the new internet. I'm old. I'm 40. At that point, I was almost 40. I was like, surely we can do things differently and better again. One way I think is something like this, where there's a topic and a kind of person here that's coming here. You're all chatting here while listening to something and seeing names. And then you can find ways to connect. One thing I felt like with myself in social media, being a blogger, being a writer, is that for the most part, social media was noise. And to get your post seen or responses or whatever bloggers are supposed to get out of it, exposure, publicity, whatever. It's okay. Half the posts that aren't literal paid ads are still ads. They're posts made by people who want to be seen. And I was one of them. And I'm going to stop contributing to the noise. There has to be a better way to do it. Yeah. So private communities, I think, are a new development that are very helpful. We have one at Simply Convivial called Convivial Circle. Scholé Sisters has a free one for homeschool moms, and there are all kinds out there. Pam Barnhill runs a free one, Homeschool Better Together. And I'm sure there are others. And feel free to share if you know of others. Feel free to share in the comments, because getting like-minded people to actually converse with and discuss and share ideas and insights with is valuable. And that's one of the things that really started bothering me about Instagram, is that I realized it's not delivering very well on what I really want it to do. The interactions are not great. And the ads that are sprinkled throughout are awful. And then the things people say in the comments, they're just soapboxing for themselves. It's non-actual discussion or conversation. It's just each person wants to put out what they have to say in the world and move on. Everyone's very reactive. So we can step back and we can see what else we can do. Private ones can still suck you in. It's true. Raising Lifelong Learners has a learners lab. Yes. Rachel has a local-ish book group that uses Mighty Networks. So I just randomly went through and I grabbed some books that speak to this issue. And I haven't read all of them. But one thing, I was thinking about doing a challenge like the Stop the Scroll challenge. And then I was reading Irreversible Damage for Scholé Sisters in our sistership. And social media is used big time to manipulate teenagers. Big time. And she talks about how having only virtual friendships, which is pretty much someone who was a young or mid teenager in 2020, their relationships and friendships were entirely online. And so she spends part of this saying it is not the same connection as meeting face to face with people. Social media is a faux connection. And our teenagers are suffering because of it, developmentally suffering because of their dependence on technology and mediated, not personal relationships. So near the end, as she's wrapping things up, she says, that hideous public diary that calls itself social media and mocks us with so many small-minded pronouncements and embarrassing images. It doesn't matter. Not really. Sooner than we may think, we may all regard it as little more than humanity's most colossal distraction, an endless ledger of wasted. Competing Spectacles by Tony Reinke. I've heard great things about that one. I have his 12 Ways Your Phone is Changing You. I got this one for my teenagers. One of the things he says in the chapter called We Are Addicted to Distraction. This is one of the ways our phones are changing us. We're addicted to distraction. And that's the real trouble here, and why just 1 week off of our most addictive apps can help us be more aware and start placing more boundaries. Some of you have already been sharing like you have specific boundaries, and I think that's a great way to do social media. One of the reasons why I felt like I had to be not quit and not just be on there partly was because I'm an author and have a blog. And so people have a different expectation. When you say, I'm not on it, then that's a clear boundary rather than, oh, sorry, I didn't see your DM. I'm actually only on here once a week or once a month or whatever. I just wanted to say no. Let's see. I also, we won't go into, I changed my account to a business account, which was a mistake. Okay. So one of the things that Tony Reinke says here is unhealthy digital addictions flourish because we fail to see the consequences. And so we know our reasons for choosing social media, but are we actually aware of the consequences? He says, first, we use digital distractions to keep work away. That's this book right here. And that's what I was finding. We keep work away by just opening that phone, and especially like me, as a blogger, I could say, this is work. I have business reasons to be on here or whatever. And it's like, actually, I'm just scrolling. This is a total waste of time. Second, we use digital distractions to keep people away. We say we're making a connection, but we're actually having faux connections, superficial connections, partial connections. Third, we use digital distractions to keep thoughts of eternity away. 12 ways your phone is changing you. Of course, everything, I was going to grab digital minimalism and I couldn't find that one. I've read digital minimalism. I haven't read A World Without Email yet. I'm like, let's keep email. But Cal Newport is great. He has a TED Talk that's very good, and Deep Work is a great book. But Cal Newport has, I think Digital Minimalism is a better book than, I haven't read this, but it's a great book about just the actual consequences and effect of our phone, which we don't think of as often as we think of our reasons for choosing it, its conveniences and all of that kind of thing. And he talks about how to use it more as a tool and keep power, personal, self-controlled discipline over it. Be the master instead of letting it just be that suck, that draw that it so easily can be. In Scholé Sisters, we just finished reading Amusing Ourselves to Death, an oldie but a goodie, a book put out when television and the 24-hour news channel was the latest and greatest thing before the internet. Still, these thoughts apply even more, and it was surprisingly still relevant. I was a little skeptical that Amusing Ourselves to Death was going to be as relevant as it really was. So that's a great one. This one I've only flipped through. I haven't started. Terms of Service, Social Media and the Price of Constant Connection. But one of his says essential reading for anyone who's ever liked or shared something on social media. And isn't that all of us? So this is a little scary because he actually just tells you all of the things that you sign away when you accept terms of services for apps. And there is no such thing as privacy anymore. And all the customized ads and all of that, it's stalking, and we're okay with it. The price that we pay for convenience and a quick, easy, fun dopamine hit is deciding that privacy doesn't actually matter. We don't actually care. I don't know how many times Facebook has broken its promises on privacy and no one cares because they don't know what they would do without it. Yeah. Anyway, I will post the book list in the description of the video. The replay will be on YouTube, and I'll put the book list in the description below. The warnings are out there and the data is out there, but so much we go la la because we don't know really how to manage life and connections with people anymore without it. I will tell you, and this is partly just to brag on my family, but when I got off Instagram, suddenly my family started using the family group chat more. And my sisters and my brothers are sharing photos of their kids in the family, which is actually so much more fun and personal than when I was looking at them on Instagram with everyone else in the world or whoever else was, and other people that I don't even know are commenting. When it's actually just us siblings, then it's different and it's better. Even though it's still a phone, it's still the same pictures, but we're relating differently. Plus, pictures of my nephews are not smashed in between advertisements for underwear for fat people, which I just am tired of seeing everywhere. My family's group chat uses Google Chat or Google, I don't know, it's changed its name a few times. Most of my siblings are Google phone users, so we use whatever Google's is. My husband and I use Slack to chat back, and I use Voxer a lot, and that's how I have actual conversations with old school internet friends or new school internet friends, actually. And then, of course, my private communities, Convivial Circle and Scholé Sisters, for online friendships, which are important to me. Yeah, Facebook Messenger. And see, I was only on Facebook for a few years early on, and then realized that level of and kind of connection with acquaintances wasn't something that was good for me. And so I got off, and I do miss things. I do miss things not being on Facebook. I've not been on Facebook for over 10 years, more like 12 or 13 now. But there are more things that I am glad that I missed than things that I am sad that I missed on Facebook. And you know what? I already scroll Amazon enough. I do not need to scroll Facebook Marketplace. And actually, if there is something, a lot of times you can get on and still, there have been times where I've looked through, I'm like, what is Facebook Marketplace? Is this worth getting on? And I can scroll the local, whatever Facebook Marketplace with an account. I guess I can't anyway, there's still Craigslist. They're still asking people, real life people. And the amount of time that I would spend scrolling, browsing is more like, that's me giving more to it than I will actually get out of it. What's the ratio? There is a benefit. There's a promised benefit there. But what are you giving to it in time? And are you getting an equal value? You might be. I think there is completely a way to be in control of your phone time and give it the right amount of time for the amount of benefit that you get. But you need to be honest about that and decide with data like the screen time report. Look at those different ads or apps, the specific apps, and see how much time you spend on each one every week or on average, and say, I'm giving this much time. Am I getting the benefit worth that time? And that's the question we should be asking. Yeah, maybe it's Amazon that needs to be deleted from the phone for sure. Be like, what is scrolling? Yeah, done about a year ago. I thought maybe I can just, now that I've been off for a while and I'm aware, I know what it's like to not be on Instagram, I can just use it like totally strategically, surgically almost, for Simply Convivial, for whatever. Maybe I can get back on. And I considered it. And I installed the app, and I do not want to go. Get me off this train. And that was enough to like, okay, never mind. I do not want to be on Facebook's train. Facebook is taking as an agenda and a decision like the direction it's going. I don't want to go that direction. Get me. Okay. So I'm going to pause here for just a second and do a giveaway. I'm going to give away 5 packets of stickers and stuff to thank you showing up live and asking questions and participating. Yeah. And Joanne says, talking about Meta, creepy is not a good business model. I sure hope not. But Facebook's always been creepy, actually, and it hasn't stopped them so far. Yeah. And Google used to be better than it is now. Google owns YouTube. Facebook owns Instagram. Google does not own Instagram. Facebook does. Google now owns Fitbit, which I've been a Fitbit user for a while. And I was like, oh, it's just which company is going to know everything about you? All of them, one of them, whatever. Yeah, exactly. I was going to say Google's motto or whatever used to be do no evil. And my husband's into tech security stuff. So he's always been anti-Facebook because Facebook's anti-security and anti-privacy. No matter what, like they say things to be public facing, but Facebook has always been anti-privacy. And Google hasn't, but their track record's going way down. So I don't know what to do anymore. YouTube is addicting also. Yes. Apple still believes in privacy though. So they have, at least on the privacy front right now, Apple's better than the others, but they seem to be dragging one another down. All right. So I'm going to go through the questions as quick as I can right now, but if just being aware of your phone time and how you spend your phone time and whether you are getting the benefit, an appropriate amount of benefit for the time you put into it, then you want to do the Stop the Scroll challenge, because it's not just about like phone, bad, stop it. It is about spending a week in building personal awareness so that we can make intentional, disciplined choices about the way we use our phone that fits our situation and what we need at the time and whatever, a personal decision. But sometimes we have to step back to get perspective and information that we need to make a conscious decision. So the Stop the Scroll Challenge, you get a little instruction and 2 steps to do each day for 7 days by email. And that starts on Monday. So you can use the green button to sign up if you haven't yet. You can use the link below to sign up for the free Stop the Scroll Challenge. That's true. Naomi says, I wish I could differentiate on the screen time app the middle of the night versus the day. Yeah, those times where I wouldn't be doing anything else. This is versus when I sit down because I really should be doing that other thing, but I'm going to do this instead because I don't really want to do that. I don't really want to clean the toilets. Okay. Questions. What about groups for church, school, or other activities that post on social media for updates and information? Yep. The church that we are at does have Facebook and uses that for a community for posting things, but there's also email. They send out an email as well. And sometimes things only get posted on Facebook. Usually, well, I'll be honest, I do have friends who are on Facebook who tell me things, or family. Like, people know I'm not on Facebook. And so if someone wants me to know something, I will usually hear about it. And if I don't, I might miss something. And you just have to be okay with that sometimes. It might be the preferred way a group communicates, but is it actually the only way? Yeah, ice rink closures, trail closes, and all that. That information is also on their website, most likely, and you can look it up if you need to know. I don't know every instance, of course, and you might need to be on Facebook for specific groups like that. But if that is the case, is there a way that you can customize your Facebook feed in any way, or put parameters around when you open it? So that's what you go there for, instead of just getting drawn in. I have to look at this, so I'm going to spend 45 minutes scrolling everything else in the world also. Let's see. Whenever I've gotten off social, I still find myself picking up my phone and doing something on it to replace the scroll. Yeah, that's why I call it Stop the Scroll, because that's what I found as well. Tips for training yourself to let the phone be. I think whatever app, as you find things like, oh, this is my scrolling habit, that's the app that has to go away, until you become aware of that urge, and then just don't follow through on it. Make your phone boring. Make your phone a tool rather than a toy. And if you just catch yourself scrolling, that's when it's time to just close the app. Unless it's for a purpose. If it's not purposeful or reasoned or dedicated, this is my time to look at things, then you just have to put the phone down and walk away. But it might take time to build that awareness. Do you consider text messages, Marco Polo, and texting apps as social media? We did talk about that right at the beginning. And no, I think it's different. It's not a feed. It's not run by an algorithm. It's not a bunch of advertisements fed to you to keep you on the app. Okay, how do we define social media? Yes, we did that. What service can I ask my church groups to use to post information? I miss out on a lot because I don't use Facebook, or I try not to. They have a website, but the youth group doesn't use it often. I'd love to get some options. If they also do text alerts, then that's your option. Really, at least anymore, I find there are enough people not on Facebook that there is some other way to get information. You just have to figure out what it is. And maybe it's texts, which is not something to script. I agree that a bunch of pinging notifications is still obnoxious, but it's better than getting sucked into an app and being fed a bunch of ads and things that I will also say that my internet advertising customization or whatever. The ads I see are also very wonky sometimes because I have no Facebook pixel. So sometimes the ads I see, I'm like, that's not anything I'm interested in because I have no Facebook pixel, and that's what people are targeting. Emails, a lot of groups still do emails. Or, right, maybe you just need to be on those groups only. And what app does your group family use? It is the Google Chat app. Okay. Our church is using Faith Life, Karen says. I know our church also has Community Builder, but that's more like the church directory, and they don't really use it for announcements or anything. But like I said, they do send a daily email. Telegram, that's an app I haven't checked out. Our church created an app. That's cool. A Signal group. Yeah, I know there's a men's group at our church that uses Slack. There's just a Slack group, and it's not everybody. It's just people who are already on Slack who like it. So it's an alternate. Yeah, I think more and more communities like that are going to find alternates to Facebook, because actually Facebook, the target demographic for Facebook is about 40 and up. For the most part, the younger crowd is not a Facebook adopter. It's a lower and lower percentage. And then plus there's all the censoring issues. I think there are a lot of things in development or starting, being tested. And I do think that the social internet landscape in 5-ish years is going to be different. I think that we are on the tail end of the social media heyday. We'll see. I could be wrong. Could totally be wrong. Maybe it's wishful thinking. But like I said, all these, I think this is the thing. And 2020 didn't do social media any favors, and it did our teenagers a lot of disservice. I think that there will be a tide change, and I don't know what it's going to look like, but I think we're going to see not one or two major places where everyone is, but there'll be different apps, different communities for different groups. Elizabeth said, as someone looking into starting blogging, how do you spread your messaging without being on social media? I don't know how you get started these days without social media. Email list. And I will say that my exposure, growth, whatever, after about a year, it took about a year before I noticed oh, it has slowed significantly. But I figure word of mouth, podcast, Google search, just the old-fashioned old ways is actually better than trying to play the social media game. I was just sick of the social media game because they change it every so often to keep you whatever they want to be the next thing. That's what they reward. And so then people do them, like the reels or the whatever. They say, okay, if you do these, then we'll show it to people. So everyone does them, and then everyone gets used to them but it's because of the way Instagram has decided this is what the next thing is. I was like, I don't want to play a game that Facebook Meta is deciding what we should all be doing right now. I'm not going to do it, but I know it is a difficulty in just finding people. Where do you find them? It's tricky for sure. And I don't have all the answers. I just have slower growth, and I'm fine with that. I call it high quality. I would love to do this Stop the Scroll challenge with you and hear from you during the week. We actually have over 1,000 people signed up for the Stop the Scroll challenge. Thanks in large part for you all sharing by word of mouth with people who actually care instead of just putting it out there for an algorithm, which I did do. It is on Instagram. I changed my profile and everything because I was still getting people who thought since I kept my account so that it links, people can mention me or whatever, and there's a link to my site. So I wanted my top pictures to make it super clear that I'm not on Instagram. So I finally put that up there. So I have recently posted about this Stop the Scroll challenge. So now it's one of my top pictures is not on and the link is for the freebie of Stop the Scroll. I did a little burst of posting there to promote the workshop, but also just to make it clear when people do land on my account there that they really shouldn't be DMing me because I won't see it. All right. I look forward to the Stop the Scroll challenge. I hope I give you some food for thought and you can be more aware of when you pick up your phone, how you pick up your phone, what you do with it when you pick it up, just so we can be disciplined and intentional and not let our phone or the creators of apps direct our attention and tempt us into escapism from our real life. We want to be engaged in our real life. And sometimes that means getting a little extreme with our apps. So thank you for showing up and for being so active in the chat. And I will talk to you later.